Okay, is this thing on? Hello, friends. Welcome to the R&R show. I'm Ruel. That's
Everybody,
Chris George. Chris, I can hear you. Let's see if the audience can hear you as well.
I know the audience can hear me because I can't stop shouting at them. Hi, everybody. How's it going?
Hey there, it is on. Dr. Prof says thank you,
It
Dr.
is
Prof.
on,
Appreciate it.
loud
Loud
and
and clear.
clear.
AG Fox, yes. Mr. Boom is asking, why isn't Chris in costume/makeup?
That's true. That's fair. I just put out a playthrough on my channel where we all dressed up as the characters of the game. It was for this game, Murders at Tealwood's Manor. It's a fun, little. They call it a reverse murder mystery. And so you know who the killer is, you know who the investigator is, and if the killer's ever in a room with somebody and they're alone in a room with somebody, they'll kill them at the end of an hour. There's 6 rounds, and you want people to be alive and dead at the end of the game. Those are your secret goals.
Yeah.
So you're putting people face down and shuffling things up. And it's oh, did I put the murderer there? And switching things around. Yeah, it's pretty fun. But we did a playthrough on Room and Board where I dressed up in full pasty white clown makeup because one of the characters looks like he was the psycho killer. So I was the psycho killer, and then my friend Zach was the judge, and then we had my friend Colin, sub in last minute as Colonel Mustard, and he just kept pouring mustard all over himself.
Colonel Mustard, nice. I'm guessing he was in the conservatory then.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, friends. It says Chris is a little low. I just gave him a boost on the volume. Hopefully that solved the problem. B. Travis is saying, when is this, an R&R show without technical difficulties? But, B. Travis, thank you. We just started. There's plenty of time for technical difficulties. Don't get.
We got time.
We got.
Don't you worry, B. Travis.
Mm-hmm.
We'll make sure something happens, and if it doesn't, we'll have your computer personally explode. No, I would never wish that on somebody. My computer screen was exploding, but I finally. Oh, my cat is exploding in the.
Oh no!
Thing. Just tried to get up on his little hammock. He was like.
Oh. We need a kitty cam over there on your side.
That's true.
Yeah, Linus Cabal's in the house. Coog's house one. We want to thank everyone for hanging out with us today. We're going to be doing a really cool list. I think this is a really interesting thing where we're going to be looking at our top 15 disappointing games of 2021. So, Chris, I think and Rahdo, didn't you do a best of 2021 list? Is that right? Or am I thinking of someone else?
Yeah, I think we did. We did best Kickstarters or whatever. I don't know. I feel like we've done a few lists. I like that last week we did top hidden gems of 2021, and so we're balancing. Right. We're balancing that this week, or I say last week, but last R&R show because we had Kimberly on for her birthday.
Yeah,
which you can check out on Rahdo's channel. All the playthroughs of that are there. But we did our top hidden gems, and so this one we're we want to give the balance, the ones that potentially didn't hit with us or didn't hit as much as we were hoping them to be, and that's
exactly.
I mean, I'll say this when we start the recording of the episode too, but that's kind of my premise as well, is things that I wanted to be exceptional and potentially were just good. Some are truly bad, but some were just good.
Yeah, for mine, I approach it the same way. I think all of mine, or at least the ones that made it on the list here, are going to be the ones that I really wanted to hit, and they just totally fell flat for me for one reason or another. I don't think maybe on the rest of my list, we can share that during the post show. But the rest of my list, I think there was a couple of just clunkers for me as well. So Linnaeus Cabal says Chris has a cat, instantly cooler. I agree.
Hey. Well, it's easy to get instantly cooler when you start at baseline 0. Then anything that's cool bumps you up, right? That's how I try to live my life. I keep the expectations very low, bare minimum, and then when I do anything that a normal human could do, I then get credit for it. So it's a very ingenious way to
I love
live the life.
The secret of life, friends. Set expectations super low or at the lowest they can get. That way, when you exceed them, you're always, above the curve.
Exactly. And then people are constantly showering you with praise, and you can get an inflated ego for doing literally just the bare minimum because they really thought you were so incapable that you couldn't achieve that. It's great. It's made for a very charmed life.
Nice.
Lydius also says mine was Cryptid. Oh, I love Cryptid. I absolutely love Cryptid.
Okay.
But it was just too much to track.
Yeah.
I get that. Like Cryptid's in my top 20 games of all time. Like I absolutely love that game.
Yeah.
But I like it at 3 players because then I feel real smart because I can track things. At 4 players, I'm like, okay, I'm losing the thread of this. And then at 5 players, well, I feel like how I should, which is 0.
So
bare minimum.
When you're playing Cryptid, are you taking notes, like being a real good, note taker and everything?
They played it at 5. Yeah, you played it at 5. That's why. At 5,
nice.
5 game over. Game over. There's no way. There's it's so hard to keep track of everything. At 3, really manageable. Because you can latch on to, you only have to worry about 2 people, but even like with that extra person, it gets quite complicated. When I was playing Cryptid, I tried to take notes and I tried to print out sheets for people like that. I wanted to do like dry erase sheets that people could cross out, but I feel like you need one of those for each person because each person's clue is different. So each person's like knowledge about the monster. So if I'm crossing off, okay, it's not in a lake. Well, it's not in a lake for that person, but that person's clue could still be, it is in a lake. Right. So having to juggle those or columns or something is how I know a lot of people who I played with wanted that as well. And I think that's why I like it at 3 because it kind of keeps it in there.
Keeps it manageable. Yeah. Have you played the Search for Planet X, Chris?
I haven't, and I know I'm gonna love it when I do.
feel like that would be your jam right there. I love it because for a deduction game, it literally supplies you with a note taking sheet, so you can take notes, and you have different columns for different players, and that helps me immensely because I'm terrible at those games. But give me a good notepad, I can take some pretty decent notes, and I love that game. And for me, not being a deduction fan, it really ranked highly that year. It was one of my games of the year, actually, back in I think 2020.
Oh, cool!
Yeah,
wow. I've heard such good things about it.
Yeah. I think you'd like it. I want to shout out my friend Cougs House. Thank you, Cougs House, for that. Yes, I am a Laker fan. Go Lakers! They've got a big game tonight, starting the Western Conference Finals. Lene says the key to happiness in one of the happiest places in the world, Denmark. Low expectations and enjoyment of the little things. Let's all be like Denmark today, folks. Enjoy the little things.
I think that's true. I feel like, I don't know. I hope this for humanity because I kind of see it in some of like popular films or storytelling and that thing. I feel like we went through this sort of renaissance of everybody is the special one. You know, those stories of like, you're the special one, you're emerging victorious. And we had all of those stories about that. And I feel like there's been a lot of stories within at least recent memory of like appreciating humanity and appreciating like the large blanket that can be humanity. And I think that's really, I think it's a much more healthy mindset to be in. I mean, like, still, like, go for your goals and achieve your goals. I'm not saying that like that's. I don't think nobody should be settling. People should be striving for their happiness. But like, I think just appreciating the little things that you have and appreciating those moments is just such a lovely thing. And I feel like I've been seeing that a little bit more in just like the stratosphere of humanity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. It may have something to do with that whole like pandemic thing too. You know, it really.
You know what? I think you're right. I think that's probably it.
Yeah. When you
see, this is why I'm down here and Ruel's up here.
Yeah, when you have some disease just spreading throughout the world without any, stopping, it definitely forces you to look at things from a new perspective. So, yeah, I think that's part of it, but. I don't know, at least for me, I know just, comparing myself to when I was a much younger man, you get older, you tend to like, sort of, things that you took for granted back in the day, you've started to like, you know what, I can sort of see the bigger picture now and, accept or, appreciate the things that, the smaller things in life, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to just like remember, having that reminder to like, it's okay, chill, like appreciate. One of my friends told me this thing, and she was like, hey, I do this thing when I'm getting stressed or just to find perspective is like imagine that your life begins and then you have 10 seconds and your life ends. And like
Whoa.
that is your life. Like that's your
Whoa.
life, those 10 seconds. And so just like shrinking it down to that scope of what am I doing in these 10 seconds? It's just like the lights of the room, how you have to find something in those 10
Yeah.
seconds. You have to find some sort of meaning or whatever, because like if it's stop, if it's just a beautiful sunny day, right? Like you're out for a walk, like you just take that 10-second chunk and go like, okay, my life begins. Like I find if I do that as like a mental exercise, I just it's like my pupils dilate. You know what I mean? It's like I'm like, oh
Yeah.
shoot, I really need to take in the world because I only have 10 seconds. What is going
Yeah.
on?
Wow.
So
That's
I like
fascinating.
that as like kind of like a reminder, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's really intriguing. I'm wow. What 10 seconds and that's it. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
That's it.
Um,
That's it.
Folks, we're gonna get into more deep philosophical discussions as the hour goes on, but we're also gonna be talking about a lot of board games as well. So thank you for joining
Yeah.
us. What we do every other Tuesday or so here on the R&R show, Chris and I get together, talk games, and we have Richard join us via the magic of video. So all three of us have a compiled list of top 15 disappointing games from 2021. We'll be recording this live here on Twitch for YouTube. That'll come out tomorrow or the next day. In the meantime, hang out, chill with us, talk about the games that have disappointed you. Also, hang out with us and chill. We've got plenty to do here. You can spend the Rahdo channel points to redeem certain things, whether it's trivia or Ruel ranks or whatnot. And also, if you have an Amazon Prime account, you get one free subscription to any Twitch channel of your choice. We'd love if you use
That's
it
true.
here because you get lots of free goodies. And check the show notes below for that. Whether it's you get stuff from discounts on Rahdo merchandise, you can get all kinds of goodies, the stream avatars and whatnot. As you can see, they're running around there, and they'll be duking it out during the battle royale as well. I want to say, let's see, what's it? Jay Zenner was talking about disappointing games for them. Concordia would be their pick.
Yep.
I hyped myself up
Great
so
pick.
much, and I was finally able to get it. I just did not enjoy it. Wow, that's interesting. I had heard
right
all
there.
the hype.
I'm right there with
Are you right there with him, Chris? Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe I set my Well, I had heard the hype, but then I saw the box cover, and the box cover immediately lowered my expectations.
That's when I actually played it. That's what put you right plane.
And then I enjoyed it though. But I can see how it's not everyone's jam. It's definitely that dry Euro, pushing cubes type of game. But I like it. I think it was great.
Yeah, I was Concordia, my friend, who I refer to as like my board game soulmate. We have the same tastes in generally everything. He was like, "Hey, I think you're gonna really like this game. I've been really enjoying playing Concordia. Like, let's play it together." I was like, "Okay, awesome." Played it, really just didn't like it at all. I've played it again since then, and I had the same experience.
Wow.
I was just looking up the date while you were talking about. I was like, "Ooh, are we getting to that year? Maybe can I talk about Concordia? Because I guarantee you, it's 2013. If we get to a 2013 disappointments or like overhyped or whatever, or what shouldn't be on Board Game Geek's top 100, like Concordia is my number one. There's a spoiler.
Yeah.
There's a spoiler for you. Concordia
like that
is my number one. Yeah, like it's. I know so many people like it, and I understand. And my main issue, the main problem with it for me, is that it's so tied into the cards. I feel like I might have said this on this channel before. We might have talked about this before or not. I'm not sure, but it's just so tied into the cards that it feels like the cards purchasing that aspect of the game grossly dwarfs the board stuff. And I love everything that's going on the board. I love moving around the board. I love putting down my little new settlements. I love trying to optimize my routes. There's so much on the board that I find really exciting. And then people just gobble up all the cards and the game's over, right?
Yeah.
It feels like there's such a disconnect between the amount of points that it's all the cards. The cards just give you points. You're like, okay, I don't know how well I'm doing, but I've got a whole bunch of cards here that give me points. Yeah. And then at the end, you're like, okay, I guess let's see who gobbled up the most cards. And I feel like your ability to maneuver around the board almost doesn't matter to a certain extent, and it just matters how quickly you're able to scoop up those cards. I feel a little bit similarly to in Stone Age, that you're just trying to scoop up those cards because it's through the cards that you get all the points. Like I always just ignore the houses at a certain point, like in Stone Age. I'm like, you don't need to build that stuff. You just go for the cards and you go for like resources. So I'm 100% with you. It's like it didn't hit with me.
I didn't even make the connection between Stone Age and Concordia. Now I think Stone Age is a little more, because I always go for all those tech cards in Stone Age. That's all I do. Get all those bonuses and try to get bonuses for your workers and whatnot. But Concordia, man, now that I think more about it, like, I'm thinking about my plays, and I know that, you really have to pay attention to those cards and seeing, what's out there, and trying to get those to synergize and get those endgame points. But, man, you may be talking me into this, Chris, because now I'm thinking about how I moved on the board. Oh, man, because I do like the game. Now, Coog's House is asking, what about Concordia solo? Because that takes the game to a different level. I have not played it solo, but I have heard a lot of good things. I've never played it either, Yeah. I'm wondering how that changes the game, but because, the movement and stuff's got to change in solo. So, I don't know, that's a good point. But, man, I don't know. You may, we're going to have to do this list. I think that would be a good list. Like, what games should not be in the top 100 on BGG? And obviously, you've gone Concordia, and I may have to, you may bring me around. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Well, I know tons of people like it. I know I'm in the severe minority, but I really resonate with that pick for sure.
Yeah. Want to thank all the new followers. Welcome, friends. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here on the Rahdo Roast channel. I'm Ruel Gaviola. That is my buddy Chris George. We do the R&R show every couple of weeks here on the channel, and what we do is record a top 15 list for you live, and this is the pre-show. We're just hanging out with y'all and talking games as we do.
It's the best part, really. We just get to chat with you all.
Like, get to hang out.
I tune out. I tune out for the next part. It's just us. Nah, well, we got the chat here. We can talk to the chat. It's the best part.
This is the best part. Linnea says, Everdell was also a disappointment for me. It was so cute and I liked the mechanism, but it just ended up feeling lackluster and too lucky with what cards came out. I really wish I liked it. It was so cute. Played it 4 times and sold it. I'm going to tell you right now, spoiler alert, that's probably going to be mine right there, Chris. I have almost exactly same experience as Linnaeus. I wanted to like it so much more than I did. It's super cute. It's a good game, but I ended up selling my copy after, maybe like 6 plays or so, I think. Yeah, half a dozen plays. It was gone.
And again, I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum.
Wow, really?
I love Everdell. Yeah, I just put out my top 20 games of all time. It was the first time I ever did it on my channel. Everdell's number 3.
No way!
Really? Love Everdell. Yeah, I love it so much. Linnaeus, maybe we're just antithesis to each other. That's great. Yes. Anything I like, you can avoid.
No, I got to be fair about though. I have not played with the expansions. And do the expansions really open up that game, or what? Are you just talking about base game?
I haven't really either. I'm just talking about base Everdell. I mean, I have the collector's edition, which adds in like a couple like mini expansions, just a couple extra cards, but nothing too severe. I've heard like Spirecrest and New Leaf are really good. I heard Pearlbrook's the worst one. That's what I heard. That's what I heard too. Yeah. For Everdell.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
But I've heard that all the other ones kind of have like their place. But like for me, I love base Everdell. I could play it a whole bunch of times. I think because it kind of scratches a similar itch to Seasons. Have you played Seasons?
I have not played Seasons. No.
Mm-hmm. It's on Board Game Arena. It's they just changed the implementation of it though. They changed the graphics, and it honestly made me never want to play it on there ever again. And I've played literally thousands of games of it on Board Game Arena. It's just like. It's the same idea of managing that tableau, that 15-card tableau. I find is interesting because it feels so big at the beginning, and you're like, I'm never going to fill this with 15 cards. And then at the end, you're like, man, I wish I had 20 spaces. Yeah, and I love that aspect of it, of knowing you're going towards that way, that you're going to run out of room and you have to optimize. I love the flow of it. I love chaining cards together and how those cards do steamroll into each other. I just think it's so much fun.
Now, I did like that part. I do like the part of chaining the cards together, but oh man, I don't know. Ultimately, it's been a while since I've played it, but I do remember like wanting to like it more. I mean, it's not like I hated the game, but there's a certain point where we have limited space, and you got to get rid of games at a certain point. So it's like this one just didn't make the cut. I mean, it's not like I didn't love it. I mean, I just didn't love it. So
that's legit. Honestly, like if you don't love it, I think it should get off your shelf. Really, at this point,
absolutely.
There are so many games out there that that are great. There are too many games that are great to hang on to the ones that are just okay for you.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And I know that, for me,
think that's legit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And for me, something that's not great for me doesn't mean it's not great for someone else, right? So, I know when I sold my copy of Everdell, the person who bought it was extremely happy, and I gave him a great deal on everything. So I was happy that, hey, it's off my shelf. It's being played by someone that loves the game. So it may have disappointed me, but it doesn't mean it's disappointed you, friends. Let's see.
Linnea says, I think we'll stick to talking about cats, Chris.
Yeah.
Our taste in games seems to differ. Yeah, it seems like it.
There you go. Cats is always
I know that by you hating those games, you hate me personally, and honestly, you should. I deserve it. I deserve it.
Emil's coming up with, wow, they're bringing some words here. Everdell's not all strategy. You need to adapt and make the most of your hand and the cards that show up. But it's not all luck. I've won basically every game against my BF that is around 60 games. Okay, so they love base Everdell. Interesting.
Yeah, base Everdell is great.
Okay, cool. Wow, 60 times. Maybe I just need to play it more, and I'll come around on that. I don't know. Folks, continue to let us know what games disappoint you. We'd love to hear it. And Linnaeus also sold their copy because they wanted someone else to enjoy it way more than I was. There you go. Yep. That's the thing. Thank you again for the follow. A Murder Doll. Appreciate you. Meeples and Mockdale says a few recent ones would be Eternal Palace and Honeybuzz for me. Honeybuzz intrigued them with the drafting tiles, but it's really a game that has a huge runaway leader problem. Interesting. I haven't heard about those. Yeah, I haven't either. Honeybuzz has intrigued me for a long time, but I've never been able to copy because they're always sold out, so someone's enjoying that game, but I haven't heard about the runaway leader problem. Hey, Chris, what else is new, my friend? Let's, just off the top of board games. I forgot about the schedule thing, but I thought you were going to be actually out and about doing, Shakespearean things at this point, but I just realized that's not until a little later in the year or the summer, right?
Not until a little later, yeah. Yeah, okay. I'm leaving to go to Nova Scotia on the 31st of May, but my contract doesn't start until the 13th. And I think we were talking about maybe moving these to a Monday because that's my off day. So I can still hang out with you.
Yeah, and folks, we will let you know, folks. Be sure to join the Rahdo's Guild, or message. You can message me on Twitter, or DM Rahdo here as well, or Whisper as they call it on Twitch, and we'll let you know as far as the schedule is concerned. But the plan right now is just we're moving forward always Tuesday, 12 p.m. But we may be changing things up once Chris goes to Nova Scotia for the Shakespearean. Is it a Shakespeare in the Park type festival? Is that what it is? I forget.
Yeah, that's basically it's exactly that. It's called Shakespeare by the Sea, but we're in a park that is by the sea. So nice. Shakespeare in the Park by the Sea, if you want to be technical.
We don't have anything like that in LA. Ours is just Shakespeare in the Park. I mean, we could go to the sea, but I don't think there's any Shakespearean.
You could go to the sea.
Yeah. On the same day.
You're right on the sea.
Yeah.
Do it on the beach, right? Like that would be an awesome backdrop.
It would be.
I always think about like outdoor theater, right? You want the wherever you do it, that is the set, right? So having this expansive ocean, well, then you got to do the Tempest or something like that.
I was just going to ask. So, are you doing something that's related to something like the Tempest? Are you going to be doing that or no?
Nah, we're doing Romeo and Juliet.
Romeo and Juliet, nice.
And then we're doing Pinocchio. Shakespeare's famous Pinocchio, the family show musical.
Nice.
A little known fact that Shakespeare wrote Pinocchio.
Yeah, that was in his later years, I believe. Folks, don't listen to us.
Well, it's it's a double show. It's the full show is called Romeo and Juliet and Pinocchio, but we're cutting it in half because it's such a long show. So we're gonna do the Romeo and Juliet part first, and then we'll do the Pinocchio part second. We have to come back on a different night for that one.
Love it. Got to get that double feature in, friends.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
That's exciting. Now, Chris, do you do something like that every year where you travel and do Shakespeare, or is this a first time thing for you?
Yeah, well, like my main profession is just being an actor, right? So I go wherever the work is. So
Nice.
but in the pandemic, I didn't have any work, so I went home and played board games and video games. But now that things are opening up, so like last summer, I went to there's a lot of summer theater, right? Summer's a good time for theater. So generally in the summer, I'll tend to book something and I'll go somewhere to do one of those, whether it's in the park or it's in just like a regional local theater. Last summer, I went to like a small town in Ontario to do a show for some weeks. And then Christmas time, I was, outside of Ottawa doing a show of a Christmas Carol. So it's all just, it's the vagabond traveling lifestyle. You
Awesome.
just go where the theaters are and you do the show and then you come back. But it's nice. It's nice to, it's always fun to go on tour, and it gives me a whole new cast of people to sink some board game fever onto. I'm already planning what games I got to bring.
I was just going to say you're going to get those claws in there and get them, get the board game in them. With all of my acting friends, I feel like there's a natural tendency to play D&D or RPGs or something that just seems to go hand in hand with actors. And a lot of my actor friends, not only RPGs, but then eventually they also get into board games as well. So do you have a lot of that, if obviously in the future you're looking to get more gamers, but in the past, do you have gaming friends now that were colleagues or actors that you worked with?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like a lot of people from just my university days too, like all going, I went to like a little conservatory program for acting. And so, in Windsor, Ontario, they had mainly a lot of focus on Shakespeare there. And so, one guy who's was a couple years below me in school, his name's Zach. He's also frequent. He's probably the most frequent one of my friends on like the channel. We kind of like bonded when he moved too close to me, and we're like, hey, you want to have like a little board game night? Like that's the sorts of relationships that developed over playing games, and now he's like one of my closest friends.
Nice.
And he's a big D&D guy. He's like, he comes from a D&D background. He's such a good DM. He's so good. Like any campaigns that I've played, either one shots or like full on campaigns, he's run them. And like we got a group together and he's like, okay, what sort of style are you looking to be? Would you like to be anthropomorphic mice fighting off a weasel war? Would you like to be set in space in the far reaches of the planet? Would you like to be in a dungeon? Would you like a standard sort of thing? He gave us all these options. We're like, can we choose all of them? Like they all sound amazing.
Nice.
He just has so many systems in his head. I'm getting him to do like a monthly like video series on my channel too of RPGs. He calls it the Rule Book Club, which I thought was kind of clever. And just like goes through and talks about like the types of conversations that you can have through these sorts of games. And I think that's a really interesting part about role-playing games, is that it provides these sorts of conversations, right? Like there's such an element. It's all conversation, right? So what sorts of conversations are you going to have, and how do you get to play and make believe and imagine? I think that is like circling back around why so many actors do gravitate towards D&D, is because it's just like a safe space to use your imagination and play and have fun. And that's ultimately a huge tool in your like actor's tool belt or whatever. Is
Agreed.
that sense of play.
Yeah. Like you said, I mean, just to go along with what you said, I mean, totally agree. And it's just that, at its heart, RPGs and, it's storytelling, right? And, to have those tools to tell a story, right? And cooperatively, I think it's so neat. And I know the best, one shots and campaigns that I've been in, and I just recently got back into RPGs right around the pandemic. And the
Cool.
best ones I had were, the people, the GMs or DMs who were running it were all actors, and it just made me really appreciate the skill, the talent that it takes to run like a really neat campaign like that. So, or a one shot. So, shout
Yeah,
out to all the
I
actors
think
out there.
shout out to all the DMs. Really, like you
Yeah,
don't have to be an actor to be a good DM. You just
True.
like need to be aware of the story, right? Like I talked to Zach about like how he runs his campaigns. He's like,
Uh-huh.
well, I have to be prepared for the options. So he knows in a session when he's crafting it, he knows kind of the characters that you might run into, and he knows the main choices that you're going to be faced with, right? And
Mhm.
so he's like, okay, you'll probably do this, or you might go down this pathway, or you might go down this pathway. And so like having a story and knowing the world that is built in these like books that help you as a GM, right? And just preparing and knowing those sorts of things
Mhm.
is so impressive to me. There's so much preparation
Yeah.
that goes into it. And that's why sometimes people will like hire GMs online. I know Zach was doing
Yeah.
that for a little bit. And then he stopped because he's like, you know what? No, I like this as a hobby. We don't always have to like make all of our hobbies like money earners, you know?
Yeah.
He's like, I
Yeah.
like this.
That's right. You don't have to
I just like
monetize
doing this with my
everything.
friends.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I think that's that word right there. You're talking about preparation, right? I think that's key for,
Yeah.
it's like those of us who are board gamers, you want to read the rule book and you want to watch the Rahdo runs through and you want to check out BGG for any rules,
100%.
questions. And then it makes
Yep.
the experience so much better for your fellow players. So likewise, in GMs. But anyways, folks, we don't
Exactly the
normally
same.
talk
Yeah.
about RPGs that much here on the Rahdo Runs Through channel. So this is great.
Yeah.
I really appreciate Chris taking the time to share. A couple of comments, then we're going to start the show. Tempest was talking about a game that disappointed them. Tainted Grail fell flat for me. I love the idea of the theme
Yeah.
and was enjoying the general story, but it felt like such a grind, and parts of it ended up being darker than I realized it would be. I had a similar experience. Now, I didn't play two. I played, I think, 2 games overall of Tainted Grail, and even in those 2 games, I mean, it felt like a grind to me, and it wasn't my game. It was a buddy of mine brought it to game night, and they were all hyped about it, and I think they continued on. But after 2 games, I was like, yeah, it's cool. It's just not for me. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I have Tainted Grail on my shelf, and it's something that I got because my girlfriend was into King Arthur, and I was like,
Ooh.
hey, you interested?
Yeah,
And we had conflicting ways of how we wanted to have fun with that game. I think like I really like the combat system in that game with the cards. I think chaining those together, and she
Yeah.
really liked running into darkness, just flailing, screaming with the narrative text. And I'm like, Renee, stop going into those dark holes. Monsters are going to jump out at us. She's like, well, you like the fighting aspect. I'm like, okay, touche.
Nice.
But yeah, it didn't grab me as much. I know somebody a little further up, Meeples and Mocktails was saying, oh no, a Murder Doll was saying Etherfields was my biggest disappointment. Fell in love with the idea of visiting dreams, but could not get into it at all. Feel like both of those are similar, but Etherfields I think hit a bit more with me, and I'm more excited to get back to it than I am personally with Tainted Grail.
Got it.
But
okay. Quick comment here from Norbex. Thank you for joining us. Is Richard going to be live, or he's not joined? No, he will be joining us through the magic of video, Norb. When we start recording the episode, which will be in a few minutes here, he's pre-recorded some videos, and then Chris and I will be responding to those as well. So he's going to be joining us, just not live, but through videos. We've got plenty of those there. Olvon Skull says, my son is a semi-pro DM, and yes, he is a trained actor out of NYU. Very nice.
there you go.
Cool.
Yeah. Going back to other disappointments, we have Kook House who says Brazil Imperial was my disappointment, but it wasn't surprising because it gave me a Scythe feel, and I'm not a fan of that one either. I haven't played Brazil Imperial, but I oscillate with Scythe. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I love Scythe, it's the best, and sometimes I'm like, yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It really goes back and forth for me.
It's interesting. I loved Scythe when it came out, and we played it a bunch. And then I felt like I guess it's just that whole, new gamer thing. It's like, hey, this is brand new, shiny, exciting. then after as the years gone by, I mean, it's still a really solid game, but I don't get as excited about it as much anymore.
Yeah.
And I will say I still want to play go through the campaign for that. But I haven't done that yet.
Me too.
So
My neighbor just got it in a trade or something, and I was like, yes,
Ooh,
sign me up.
nice.
I'm in. I'm excited to do that with you. I've heard it's fantastic. So
very nice.
I think hopefully that'll pump up my enthusiasm for it.
Yeah. Roland Rate joins us and says, Galaxy Trucker disappointed me, but I think the main issue was not knowing what all the icons meant. It really lost impact when you flip over a card, then have to read back through the rules to see exactly what happens. That's such a huge problem. Yeah. I think Galaxy Trucker is so much fun, but yeah, it's rough. It's not like an easy learn. I mean, yeah, you have a ton of icons. You got to stop, and it's like, you're in real time doing stuff, and it's like, well, yeah. So that's something that's definitely true about Galaxy Trucker. Is not an easy learn. Not always the best first impression, I think.
Yeah. I haven't played Galaxy Trucker, but I always want to play that giant version that they bring to conventions.
Yes.
I think the concept is so funny, and I think just running around grabbing pieces, that the life-size version feels like it'd be a friggin' blast.
Oh, totally. Prince Peter, thank you for hanging out. Galaxy Trucker is fun as an app. Yeah, I can. I think that's probably a good way to learn it. It is fun on the app, but when you do have that real life experience, like the analog, there's something to be said for grabbing all that stuff in front of you. I love all large board games like that, Chris. For me, that's like always a highlight of going to a convention, because they're going to have those oversized games. I think it's so neat. Stuff like the big Azul or the big Takenoko with the big panda and stuff. I love.
Oh yeah. It doesn't matter what game you're playing. If you get to play it on a friggin' giant board and move pieces around, you're like, haha. You just feel. It's just fun. It doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you're playing.
Agreed.
That's Wizards Takenoko. That's what it is.
It reminds me, at Gen Con every year, at one, I forgot where it was in the hall, but they always have people that they play Robo Rally, but they use actual remote control cars. It's the best thing in the world. Like, everyone has a remote, and the cars, it's amazing. I always love seeing it. Of course it's the best
thing in the world. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. It's like,
Robo Rally for me is like, but for that, sign me up. I'll play all day.
Yeah, totally. I'm like, I don't need to play Robo Rally, but the fact that they all have these remote control cars on, I mean, it's played on the floor of the convention hall. Oh, it's so cool to see. And I always want to play, but I haven't played it yet with them. Maybe I'll put my name in this year. I've got to try it at least once.
You got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, Norb says, are you guys going to be at Gen Con this year? I am finalizing my plans to get out there. I have this really great opportunity with a publisher who's going to be bringing me out. I can't announce it yet, but we're still figuring things out, but I am going to be at Gen Con this year. I'm super excited. Chris, will you be there?
Nice. No, I can't, just because of my contract. I'll be
that's right.
I'll be doing theater in the park, and I'll be jealous of everybody at Gen. I just miss Origins too.
Oh,
which
no.
is a real bummer.
Yeah.
Because I know some people who are going down who live in Toronto, so I could have bunked with them, but it just wasn't to be.
Yeah. Well,
not this year.
Not this year, but you will be at the World Series of Board Gaming this year. So
I will be at the World Series of Board Gaming this year, and so will you, Ruel.
I will be there too. I'm looking forward to it.
You could come hang out with both of us there for sure. It's going to be fun.
Yes. So that's, let me get this right. World Series of Board Gaming, end of September in Vegas. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
So, September 24th to 28th.
Yeah.
It's great. I went down just recently for a really quick trip to do a site visit, make sure everything was kind of figure out floor plan stuff.
So you were just there recently?
Adding in a few more events. Yeah. Just really briefly. It was a one day. It felt like It felt like it was so quick, but it was definitely necessary to physically walk through and make sure that setups would work.
Okay.
That was the important thing, right? Because we're just changing a few things, and we're good because we're making sure it's going to be bigger this year. We're going to have more events, like fun live events. We got some comedy shows, we got some trivia shows planning. We got Danny Standring, who's on TikTok. If you guys know her, she's like our events coordinator. We got her to plan out some like outer ring fun events that she's just going to be running and setting up. And so just to make it bigger, right? Like make sure there's always something to do, both like in Vegas and then in the board game convention itself. So treating it like an event, right? Rather than just kind of like a standard convention, something that is a little bit different, which you might want, you might not. But I think having there's going to be lots of fun stuff, and I'm figuring out how to put up like projectors so people can see like scoreboards of people where they are in the tournament, how they're moving forward, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's going to be cool. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, I didn't know you're going to do all the events and stuff. That's great. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So my question I was going to ask you was, did you go to Tacos El Gordo?
I did. Absolutely I did. I was there for maybe 48 hours, and I almost went twice. Yeah, walked up there to the one that was closest, like a 30-minute walk, 35-minute walk.
I love it.
From the Horseshoe. Oh, 100%. And I was like, maybe I go tomorrow. Didn't get there twice, which but I had 7 tacos the first time I went, so it was
7 tacos.
Yeah. I made sure to get my money's worth.
Amazing.
I was like, I was rolling myself home. I'll tell you that. But if you're in the Las Vegas area or LA area, they've got a few. But
go check it out, folks. Tacos El Gordo, the best tacos on. It's so good.
It's really good.
Yeah,
really, really good.
Oh, I love that. We have a first-time chatter.
Like,
thank
this
you.
Is the only thing.
Chitchat, thanks for the comment. Was it with theater people and board games? Professional actor here as well. We were just talking about that.
Yeah, Roshko, I'm sad too. I'm sad I can't be at Origins too. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But just come to Vegas. That's the solution. I'm going to be there.
There it is, friends. Yeah, Vegas. End of the year. One more comment here from Meeples and Mocktails. Wait, I forgot about On Tour. It was quite the disappointment myself. But on positive, I didn't have to pay for it since I could download the app on International Board Game. Oh, okay. I like On Tour. The roll and write game. I'll be honest. Like when I first played it, I wasn't really into it. But the more I played it, the more I appreciated it. It's quick.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and it's easy to play and gives you a nice puzzle. And unlike other roll and writes that nowadays they always give you ways to mitigate the dice, right? I was like, I can do this. Like, no, On Tour says these are the you roll this, you got to deal with it. And I like that. Yeah, it's like there's just no way around it. You're gonna get hosed at some point in that game. But I like On Tour for that.
I like On Tour. It's not something I would ever purchase though. Personally, I wouldn't add it into my collection.
Yeah,
it's just like it was fine. It was in that sort of fine category. If somebody wanted to play it, I wouldn't spit in their face and push them down the stairs. But
On
I would just be like, yeah, okay, fine. On Tour, Pat, yeah. Wait, where's a flight of stairs? You get over here. Say that to me again.
Chris George, ladies and gentlemen, as we call him, the nicest guy in board games.
That's true. Yeah, really, really making a case for us Canadians. Really showing our true colors right now.
The true colors are out, folks. Oh, funny. So as you know, folks, I had COVID last month, and I've still got the cough. And I don't know, I've had to mute myself a couple times. It's been bothering me today. So what I'm going to do, Chris, if you don't mind hanging out for just a minute, I'm going to go run and get some cough drops from the other room. I should have had
cough drops
on hand, but I'll be right back, folks.
I'm going to vamp. Now that Ruel's away, we can say horrible things about him, and he'll never know until he watches the replay. What should we say? No, I'm just kidding. I love Ruel a lot. I would never say it to his face, but I think he's a very nice, lovely person. Oh, like the Lakers suck. Yeah, let's get them. There was one that a comment that we didn't hit by Emily 4455 said, I didn't enjoy Woodcraft at all. Loved all the other Suchi games. That's interesting because Woodcraft was kind of like really high. I mean, it's high on the complexity level. It's one that I was really interested in trying out, but now I don't even have to worry about it. I don't have to think about it whatsoever at all. Was there anybody else who's played Woodcraft in the comments? I'm curious because that was one that I was interested in, but I also heard it was like complexity for complexity's sake in a few of the areas. It was like, okay, we're just putting these in so that we have an extra way to combo something, is kind of what I heard about it. We're talking about Woodcraft, Ruel, if you've got your headphones on now. I don't know. Yeah, Emily said that they didn't enjoy Woodcraft. Mm-hmm. I've never played it, but I was interested in it because of its high complexity level. That's I heard it's heavier than what is mentioned. Yeah, it's definitely heavier. It's like a 4.4 on BGG, and that is heavy when you get like your rating to be around that average of complexity. That's people who are like, man, this is dense, and that's what excited me about it. But it also, I think there could be the potential of bloat there, and so it's tough with BGG if like people who are rating it, because people who love complexity love to rate things too, right? So if it's tough getting a sense of it. I feel.
Yeah, I haven't played Woodcraft. I'm pretty sure Richard had a pretty positive view of it. But I would like to try it one day. By the way, Cougs, I saw the comment about Lakers. I'm going to pretend I didn't see it, but thank you for your
your when you were away, I said, let's say horrible things about Roel, so he'll never know.
Nicest guy in board games, folks, I'm telling you. Oh, man, I love you too, Cougs House. Nice. Friends, why don't we get ready? I've got my cough drop. Hopefully I'll be okay. But, we'll take a break if needed. Folks, if you're joining us for the first time, what Chris and I do is we record this live here on Twitch for YouTube. It's our top 15 list of disappointing games. Richard is joining us via the magic of video. So we'll be going through that. And if there are any audio or video issues, we'd love it if you could help us out. Just drop a sticker. We will hear it, and we'll pause, and then we will get the recording going again. One thing we do, yes, thank you, Linnaeus. Always good reminder is y'all get to fight. So the battle royale is going to start right now. Good luck to you all. You get bonus points for the winner. So good luck, and I'm going to shut off my mic while I cough.
I think I could hear your cough, but I don't know if the people could hear it.
Uh-oh.
So that's good. But we got the battle royale, so, and somebody has been embiggened too. So obviously that's the person who everyone needs to take down. B Travis says no, couldn't hear it. So that's great. That's great.
Cool.
So your muting is working well. I also had a nose blowing break as well. I've been recovering from a bit of a cold combo of cold allergies, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to sneeze, so I'm going to go get some tissues just in case. I'll be right back.
As they fight to the death, we all need tissues to cry over all of those horrible bodies that are getting just slammed. Rip to Linnaeus. Oh, I'm sorry, Linnaeus. I can't see who's going to win, but I don't know if it's me. I think it should be me. I think I'm dead already. Is the battle royale just random? No idea how it works. Yeah, if you believe hard enough, then your character will emerge victorious and save the day. Otherwise, it may feel random, but it's all about belief. It's all about the heart of the cards. That's what it is. Heart of the cards.
If you just wish hard enough, it'll come true.
Yeah. If there's a real strategy to it, and you have to focus your mental energy very specifically. And if you do, that's why we see some winners. Just like Andrew Scott, who has won the Battle Royale. If I know Andrew Scott, he's ready to punch anyone who he encounters just anytime, any day of the week. And I'm sure he was willing death upon everyone here. And that's why he came out on top. You just need to find I heard there was a wonderful politician, a senator. I'm trying to remember the name, Pal something, because he's a pal to you, right? Who said, "Let the hate flow through you. Use your anger. Use your hate." Senator be a pal to everyone. That's how you win the battle royale.
Nice. Congrats to Andrew Scott. Spend those points wisely, friend. Oh, Chris, you're killing me today, man. This is great. Why don't we do a show, Chris? How's that sound? Why don't we do the show?
Let's do a show.
We'll do the intro. I've got the intro. Richard's going to do it, and we're just going to play the video. And we are sponsored today by Perk Coffee, folks. So that's why I'm representing Perk Coffee today. And I'll do the intro, do the shout out to Perk Coffee, then we'll get into the list. How's that sound, Chris?
That sounds fantastic. I'm very excited.
So am I. Okay, here we go, folks. And let me get this going. All right, here we go.
Hey everybody, episode 63 of the R&R Show is brought to you by Perk Coffee. Use the special checkout code at perk.rahdo.com to get 15% off your next order. And without any further ado, let's take it away.
And hello, Chris. How's it going, my friend? What's going on? What's new?
It's going fantastically, Ruel. How are you today? I'm so thrilled to be here on the R&R Show, sponsored by Perk Coffee, the delicious coffee, my favorite coffee company out there. I can say that legitimately.
Yes.
I'm just excited to be here.
Nice. Friends, thank you for joining us today here on YouTube. We are getting ready to do our top 15 most disappointing games of 2021. Now, you can check the show notes below for our previous show where we talked about the hidden gems of 2021. We're going to be doing something different today. We're flipping the script, as they say. Before we get going, though, I want to say that, honestly, Perk Coffee, folks, for our sponsor, they had sent me a couple of things to try. These are instant coffees.
Yeah.
I'm not an instant coffee drinker. I am now, because this is delicious. I was really surprised, Chris, that this, captured, what I like about coffee. It was the bold taste, and it tasted like a brewed cup of coffee. It's not like, you just dump this into hot water. It's like, it's just flavored water. No, it's actually delicious, legit good. So, folks, be sure to use that Rahdo code when you go to Perk Coffee, and you can click the show notes below for that. But without any further ado, we're going to jump right into it. Chris is going to kick things off. And Chris, while we did the pre-show, folks, if you don't know, we record this live on Twitch every couple of Tuesdays. But during the pre-show, we talked about some of our methodology as far as how we did this. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you approached this list today, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. So I like these lists because I think it's important to kind of talk about the games that for some reason didn't hit really well with you. Of course, as this always is, it was fun in the pre-show. Some people mentioned games that are on my personal top 20 as like their biggest disappointments. And now I know that I am also their biggest disappointment, but that's a mental trauma to get through for another day. The idea of the idea of like things that potentially had really high expectations and were hyped up a bunch, and then, could have been just good, right? I think it's important to talk about this as kind of like a counterpoint to hype as well. And so that's kind of how I approached my list. In a sense, there are a couple that I truly just did not enjoy. But for the most part, most of these are games where like I was actively excited to play. Except for my number 3. I think number 3 is just, bad and shouldn't exist. But the other ones, you're going to stick around on number 3 now. But the other ones are sort of all varying levels of that. Like I was here and then I got to here, or then I went to here, or then I went to here. Right.
Yeah.
And the further the gap for me, then the further up on the list they are personally. That's kind of how I structured mine.
Yeah. And I know, again, during the pre-show, folks, you can join us live every Tuesday on Twitch Tuesday here on the channel. I talked about how a lot of games on my list were, I was hyped for them and they just didn't hit as much as I thought they would or should. Yeah. I heard the hype, or I bought into the hype, and I looked at the rule book early enough, or, saw it in some previews. And when I actually got to the tabletop, it was not as good as I thought it would be. So, and we'll be hearing from Richard as well. But why don't we jump right into it? Chris, you're going to start us off with our number 15 on the list.
Yeah. And so number 15, this is one that I'm actually really excited to talk about. And it's a weird one because it was a weird mashup, and that disappointed me. And then how it got split up was disappointing me. I don't think this is a bad game. Actually, I think this is probably a great game. And in fact, it's sort of a subset of a game that is in my top 10 games of all time, which is why I was so thrilled for it. This is Quest, the Avalon Big Box Edition. That's what it's called. Officially, it was released in 2021 as Quest, the Avalon Big Box Edition. And so now there's just Quest, and Avalon has been ripped out of that and is the Avalon Big Box Edition. I think this was disappointing to me in a number of ways. One, I was super hyped not disappointed at all that Avalon was coming back with more content. I love Avalon. It is my favorite social deduction game of all time. It is in my top 10 games of all time. Avalon is incredible. It used to be called Resistance Avalon. It's just so good. I could talk about it for hours, but then it would be the whole episode. So when I heard it was coming out, I was like, okay, so Avalon's just being rebranded as Quest. And that's not true, because Quest is its own unique game. And so there was this weird rebranding that happened that I think was a detriment to both Quest and Avalon, and they should have just been separate. It's like they tried to combine them both with a new art style that's like the same art style, but these are two different games and are kind of not compatible. And I think they actually did it right with putting them both into the main box. I wish that I had the option in the Avalon Big Box now to play the Quest game, because it's basically the same game as Avalon. They're like, hey, except it's worse, because Avalon's incredible. They were like, hey, let's make the same game but different. It just was confusing, and I think that confusion really hurt them. And I think there's evidence of that confusion, because now you can't get Quest, the Avalon Big Box edition. You can get Quest and you can get Avalon. What's also a little disappointing to me about Quest is that I feel like Quest has replaced Avalon in that price point line. So Avalon used to be around $20, and I think that's what Quest is right now. And so now the Avalon Big Box is around like 30 to 40 or whatever, which I'm still very happy to pay because I like the game so much. But I feel like it was best at that sort of $20 range, and I feel like Quest has now replaced it. Now that I've talked about all those intricacies, let me give you like a brief little bit about the game. So this isn't the whole show. Avalon or the Resistance is like, there's good team, bad team. You want to figure out who's bad. There you go. You're going on Quest. That's it. In Quest, the main difference between Quest and Avalon is that they removed the voting on the teams. And a lot of people are like, this is better. It streamlines it. It makes it faster. It just means one person gets to assign the team, and then you vote. Either like secretly you vote success or fail. Is the quest going to succeed or fail? But what I love about Avalon is the voting system, because that's what provides you actual information. You see voting patterns. You see what people are putting forward as their teams. And if you can distill that information, like that's the stuff that gives you the deduction aspect of it, that helps you determine around the table who's good, who's evil. Otherwise, it's just kind of like a fest of like, you're bad. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. And so I feel like you lose so much of what makes that game so great in the votes. And that's the actual information that gets distilled, which is better than something like Werewolf, because Werewolf is a lot of that. You're bad. No, I'm not. Okay, let's kill you, right? The Avalon gives you that concrete information, and I think by removing it from Quest, you do make it a little bit quicker, but it also lessens the experience of the game. And so it's not that like Quest, I think, is still fine to play. They have some really interesting ways to mitigate it. Like you have a token where you give it to somebody and then they have to vote yes, which needs to exist in that new format. So you have some measure of control and some measure of like, yeah, I was bluffing. But it also like removes somebody's agency in the game. And if you are bad, then you're like, okay, well, I had to vote yes. And I kind of lose that sense of fun. So like there's some interesting things and some interesting roles, but just Avalon is so much better. And I just wish they had led with Avalon, and I wish they hadn't tried to combine these two games in these two different. Like it's the same art style, it's the same color on the box. I think it's just confusing for people, and I think it takes away attention from Avalon, and I think that's the mistake. So it's because you came from my darling Avalon Quest. I mean, it's by the same designer. It's the same game, just with a couple of tweaks, but it could have just been a module to Avalon, and I think that's where it should have stayed. Yeah, there's my number 15.
Yeah, interesting choice the way they went with the game. And like I remember when it came out, but you know, these aren't really my type of games. Social deduction, but you know, I'm an Omni gamer. I always give something a shot. But it seems to me it took out the core of what made the original so good, and it just, I don't know what was. I mean, as you were talking, I was like, Are they just trying to, I don't know, I don't want to sound so cynical. Are they just trying to cash in and like rebrand and just try to, I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I think like the intentions were great. I think they were trying to launch Quest as a new thing, and they're like, yeah, let's throw in all the stuff for Avalon, because there was a bunch of little promos and little things that hadn't been implemented into Avalon. It was just like, I'm so happy it got all combined into one box for people who want to get everything. It was so easy for me to get everything. I wanted everything, absolutely wanted everything, because I love it. But I just think, so I think that initial, almost like Quest Avalon Big Box Edition was the right way to go about it. And I'm almost even more disappointed that it's been separated. But it's just like you didn't, I feel like they didn't need that new game, especially for like very minimal changes. I feel like it should have just been like a new way to play Avalon. And then you could play it with both, like would have been a better, keep the flagship of the game that's already working well, and then tag on this new thing. But so it was just weird. I love indie board and cards. Absolutely love the game. Think everybody should, if you like social deduction, Avalon is my favorite out of them all for sure, because of the actual information that you get. It's not, there's more deduction that can happen in Avalon than I think any other social deduction game that's out there, personally.
Cool. Well, great choice for number 15, Chris. I mean, you were a hardcore fan and you were disappointed by what they did.
Hardcore fan. Played hundreds of games of that one. Yeah. Like, seriously, it's so good.
But it's good to know. All right, let's move on to our number 14 on the list, folks. This is not a social deduction game on my list, but it's one of my favorite themes and mechanisms in games. And I love abstract games that, tie in some kind of theme. And I especially like nature themed games. And so for our number 14 on the list, this was a disappointment. And again, this is a game that I had seen previously and I was hyped about it. And it's a good game. It just didn't live up to the hype. And that was why our number 14 is Umbra Via. Umbra Via, this is from our friends Monique and Naveen over on Before You Play. We're looking at their playthrough. It's an abstract game, but it combines elements of bidding and set collection, and what you're trying to do is get rid of these soul flowers or whatever they're called. And I remember seeing this and I was like, for a nature game, it was like really dark, just the board and stuff. Like, I don't know, the design, I don't know. I think of nature, I want to be outside, and this, just the way you're building it seems really dark to me. But that's just a very minor quibble. And again, I don't think it's a bad game, but for me, the couple times I played it, it fell flat, ultimately, at 2 players. Now, I should back it up by saying I think this game definitely plays better at 3 and 4. But for something that, has to stay on my shelf, it's going to have to play well at 2, because Michelle and I, she's my main gaming partner, and most of the games we play are at 2. And she loves nature-themed games just as much as I do. So things like Wingspan stay in our collection because it plays well at 2. Other nature games, other games out there will stay, but this one ultimately didn't, unfortunately, where you're trying to bid on these things, and at the same time, you're trying to line them up on the it's a little path that you're going here. You line them up, and then whoever has the most uncertain, it's area control as well. You're gonna, pop those into behind your screen, and then you're gonna use those to bid in future rounds. I don't know. It just, I think the biggest thing for me was it just ultimately fell flat. Like we were doing things, it was fun. Again, it's not a badly designed game, but I just felt like ultimately, there's other games I'd rather pull out first before Umbra Via. So that's why it's our number 14. Just a disappointing one for me. Again, I'm not going to say it's a terrible game or a bad game, but it ultimately left our collection. So that's our number 14, Umbra Via. Chris, were you able to play this one?
No, I haven't played it. I thought it looked cool. I think honestly, to call it a nature game feels like a bit of a stretch. It felt like an abstract game to me. But again, I didn't play. But that's just from my tertiary looks, and that's probably why it didn't. I think that's kind of what you're saying, right?
Yeah, even the box cover looked really cool. It had all these vines and stuff. I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then when you open it up, it's like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, it is abstract-y, and maybe that's what it was. It was just the abstract. There wasn't enough theme to really grab me and bring me there. I mean, I can play a totally abstract game. I love stuff like Quarto, which is just wooden blocks, and you're just line them up. That's fine. But ultimately, I wanted more theme for this. So, I think of our friends Amy and Maggie, Thinker Themer. They're also contributors here on the channel. I think I want some theme to go with my mechanisms, and this to me it didn't tie in well. But anyways, that's our number 14. Let's move on to our number 13. We're gonna have Richard join us. Richard, take it away.
Okay, everybody. I have no idea what Chris and Will have come up with so far, but I'm going to begin my heartbreaking tour with number 13 on the list, Neko Harbour, the card game. And oh my gosh, here's the deal, folks. I actually got a chance to play this first as a 4-player game at BGGCon, the Board Game Geek convention that happens in Texas. Played it with a very nice group of folks, and we all agreed it was surprisingly fantastic. The rulebook left a little be desired, I have to admit, but this is such a brilliant engine building game all about running tours in the Antarctic. I was blown away by it, and I could not wait to get a copy of it and get home and play with my wife Jen, because I had every expectation it was going to make my top 10 games of 2021. It's that good at 4 players. But then I did get a copy and got to play it at 2, and oh my gosh, it almost feels like every single thing the developers could have done to make it weaker as a 2-player game, they did. And I have, actually, if you go check out my original run-through, I think in the final thoughts, I have a comment where I list, hey, if these 5 things were done as a house variant, I think this could have still been in the top 10 games of the year, because it would have brought more variety for 2-player, it would have dealt with scaling a little bit better, and I would have been much, much happier. So yeah, this was a huge disappointment for me. This is one I thought was going to stay on my shelf for years, and that we would revisit until I found that the 2-player implementation of number 13, Neko Harbour, the card game, was just, I'll just say ill-considered and leave it at that. Broke my heart. Very disappointed, and otherwise a phenomenal engine builder. If you have a higher player count and you like engine builders, I highly recommend it. But if you're a 2-player, anyway, let's see what the guys have next.
So he wasn't really a fan, or I wasn't really interested after hearing his comments on the game. So I don't know. Were you able to play this one, Chris?
No, I didn't. It sounds so familiar to me. I was like, wasn't this on our hidden gems from last time we did one of these? I don't know if Kimberly put it on like her honorable mentions or something. But I think if you that's why I think player count is so important, right? I think going on BGG or something like that, which says optimal player count, and like trying to play it at that player count too. I know I have a couple of games that I've got in the can to review, and like the designers have been like, hey, for your first play, please play it at 4. I was like, all right, I'll play it at 4. Like that'll give you your best experience. And I'm like, that's great feedback. That's great feedback to know. And like, that's something that you need to know walking in, right? Like if you only play with 2 people, then this isn't a game for you. But if you have that, that expansive group, well, then it's one that you could pick up and try and play. Right?
Yeah.
So that's, I haven't played it.
Yeah, I was really, again, I love engine building, I love tableau building. I'm really interested in it, but just based on Richard's comments, as he said, player count's a huge thing, especially, I know that when Michelle and I play games, those games that aren't going to fit for 2, they're leaving the shelf just like that. So
yeah,
bummer about that one. Let's move on as we continue our top 15 most disappointing games. Back to you, Chris.
Oh, it's me, right?
Yeah.
So our number 12. Now, this is a caveat. I think this is a game that I will grow to quite enjoy. I don't own a copy of it. A friend owns a copy of it. I've only played it once, and I think it's because I played the tutorial version. And I gotta stop doing this to myself, because I don't like when I play the tutorial versions of games. I know this, and so there's a bunch of things that happened which made this game also stand out. But I think I wanted to put it on the list, not because it's a bad game at all, but because it was almost universally everybody's number 1 game of 2021. And so when that happens, I feel like your expectations are through the roof, And so if it doesn't hit that through the roof expectations, I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty good. Like it still ends up being a disappointment, which is a weird, wild thing to say. but because it was just pretty good. And so that's mind management is our number 12.
Oh, okay.
I
Huge
feel
hit.
It's a huge hit. It's an absolutely huge hit. And I think this is a pretty good game. But and I think it's because I played the tutorial. I've only played it once. I love the different powers, etc. I think if you're on a team, it's a team game. It's one versus all. It's hidden movement. One person is controlling the psychics. Well, the person running who's hidden, and the other people are controlling psychics, trying to find that person who's hidden. And the ways you get clues feel interesting to me. But it was one of those things where we just got steamrolled by the psychic because our team wasn't really up to snuff, and I really like that in this game there's a shift system. So if you find the hidden movement person, I keep saying the psychic, but it's actually the psychics who are trying to find that person. The hidden movement person, the one, if one person keeps winning, one side keeps winning, there's a shift system to like give advantages and balance it out as you keep on playing, and you're unlocking these different modules as you keep playing through. I like the concept of it. I really like having to search the board and find the different clues that are on there. The psychic wants to gather up like 3 of these different types of symbols. And so if you can guess what symbols they're going for, you can kind of predict their path. That's also really exciting. But I think don't play the basic game. Just don't do it. If you're into board gaming, just don't do it. You can handle the complexity that comes with it, and you'll enjoy it more. It's one of those things that like, because it was somebody else's game and I played it that once and it didn't blow me away, and it didn't become my number 1 game of all time after that one play.
Yeah.
I think in my head, okay, never need to add it to my shelf and play it again. I think that idea, that internal idea is disappointing to me, that I'm disappointed in myself, which is, what I usually am, but this time it's for board game reasons. But this is the feeling, right? Because I think it's quite a interesting, exciting game, and it's one that I want to give another shot, but it's one that I kind of forget about because of that first play, right? And so I think that's the trap that we can potentially fall into of like, this game is amazing, this game's so good, and then it just ends up being good. Yeah, and I think good is great, is good, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it was just good. It wasn't and I was expecting number 1. I think if I didn't have those expectations, I think I would be like, okay, there's like interesting things here, and I'd be more inclined to come back to it. It's a weird sort of way of looking at it, but that's why I wanted to bring this one up. Not that I think this is a good game. I think many people really, really love it, but it's that like intense love that I didn't immediately feel because of a number of circumstances that I think is just something to be wary of, and that's kind of why I wanted to put it on the list. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did, because this is a game that I really want to play, and I've heard universally nothing but good things. But I've never heard that what you said, and I think this is a very important thing, is to not focus on that tutorial mode and jump right into the game, because I mean, I understand why publishers do that. And I think it's great that they do that for newer players or whatever. Sure. But at the same time, by doing that, you're really limiting what you're showing in the game. And for veteran gamers like yourself and me and a lot of people watching on the channel here, it may sort of taint your view of the game if you're just getting the very basics and not giving it its letting it stretch, so to speak. Stretch its legs a little. So. I will when I know I'm going to eventually play this. I know friends that just rave about it. I'll make sure it's like, you know what? Let's not play the tutorial mode. Let's just jump right into it, and I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, go full head first into it, and I think you'll have a good time for sure.
Nice.
Yeah,
will do. Okay, thank you, Chris. So we're gonna move on now. Let me make sure that the video stuff works on my end, because this doesn't always work. But we're moving on to number 11, folks. This is a game I was super pumped about because I love the IP. The IP is Aliens, and all the other Alien movies, Ripley and all that. But it was When I eventually played it, it didn't live up to the hype. Alien: Fate of the Nostromo. Nostromo. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but we're gonna get to the game right here. I got to play this with the Dice Tower last year or the year before. They had me out there. I played with Z and Mike DeLisio and Stephen Bonacore. And as you can see there, it's got all the alien stuff. It's got Ripley. It's got Bishop. It's got all the cool characters. It's a cooperative game. You are battling aliens and whatnot, and it's fine. It's a good game, but there's nothing here, and this is why it disappointed me. There was nothing in the game that was like fresh or new. It just seemed really straightforward, which is fine. And I think the reason why it disappointed me was because I think it's a Ravensburger game, and they've done some really good stuff with their IPs, stuff like the Princess Bride book game and some of the other IPs they have. Again, these are all more like Gateway Plus maybe games, and I think they're fine, but Alien, for whatever reason, it just didn't... when I want an Alien game, Chris, I want one of two things. I either want Alien, the first one, or Aliens, the second one. So the first one, I want really tense, scary moments that, those moments that you're just, are we going to be able to do this? Or I want Aliens 2, where it's nothing but a, James Cameron, action fest. One or the other. And unfortunately, I didn't get that sense. Again, talking about theme, I didn't get that sense in this game at any point. I mean, it was fine. We hit on all the points of the game and so forth, of the story. I mean, there are aliens. You're trying to, there's like some pick up to deliver to this. You're trying to get items at certain points and trying to, battle the aliens. But ultimately, it just, again, it's another game that fell flat for me. And that's why it's our number 11, Alien Nostromo. I will say this. Designer Scott Rogers, the original designer, he put out, so he, according to him, and people have talked about this on BGG, the rules of the game changed from his original set of rules. So that's what we played. We played from the box, just what it was. But apparently, and everyone universally agrees on BGG, if you play Scott's original rules, it's supposed to be a way better game. And I'm like, why did they change it? I don't know why they changed it. And I don't know what's different about the game. But I will play this game, even though it was a disappointing game to me. I will play it again based on his original rule set. So that's our number 11, folks. Do you play this game, or do you like aliens, or are they scary you?
I haven't played it. They're too scary. Nah, not interested. Too scary. No. No, I haven't played it. The only thing I know about this game is that if you take off the lid, isn't there like just a big picture of a cat? Isn't that this game?
Is there? That would be perfect.
I think I heard that from a Alien game, that there was just like just a sheet of paper. It was just a picture of a cat. I was like, well, that's pretty funny.
That would be awesome.
That got me interested in it, but
absolutely.
I haven't played it now.
Cool. Yeah. Again, I'll give it another shot based on the designer's original rules, but I'm definitely the way that game went. I mean, it was fine. It wasn't as what I wanted, but which is fine. But hey, let's move on to number 10. Richard's got it for us. Take us away, Richard.
Okay, everybody. Number 10 on the list is Merchant's Cove, which is so painful for me to talk about. But actually, I got to play this in prototype form when it was crowdfunding back in 2019, I think. And at the time, I thought it was an absolutely brilliant market economic simulation, kind of lightweight. And the beautiful thing was, every player is a different kind of merchant working in the same market. And the merchant you are determines what type of game you play, whether it's a roll and ride or a dice manipulation game or an adventuring game. So much variety in the best possible way, and all the different mini games that you could play in this incredibly asymmetric game worked really nicely. And so I was in love with it until we actually got to the end of a round when we resolve what customers will actually buy from which merchants after we make all our wares, because the market simulation portion of this game is incredibly cutthroat. One of the most cutthroat I have seen in a long time, and I just don't understand why it needs to be that way. I guess the developers overcompensated, since when everybody's playing their own little minigame, they're really siloed in their own little world that, hey, when we get out to the main board, let's go overboard on the player interaction, because in this game, I can work you over so hard. What you have spent the last 20, 30 minutes of your life trying to achieve, I could then do a couple of very simple things and ruin all of it. And as a two-player game, that happens a lot because of the zero-sum nature of two-player. Maybe at higher player counts, it's not so bad. Maybe it's not quite so cutthroat. But Jen and I were both heartbroken, crestfallen, when we saw just how much we are incentivized to be incredibly mean to each other in the central binding market simulation, which, again, broke my heart and disappointed me greatly. I had hoped when 2021 came around and the final game was there, maybe my cries would not have fallen on deaf ears and the developers would have come up with, I'm not saying they had to redesign the game, but maybe a more Care Bear friendly alternative mode where we are not just sticking knives into each other's back every chance we get. Would have been a possibility, but it was not. The game was as mean-spirited as ever once everybody comes together on the main board to fight over control over the customers that show up for our wares. And that's what disappointed me, folks, that as much as I loved everything else about this game, we couldn't keep it. And so it actually ended up going to the Dice Tower West Convention Library, where hopefully somebody will get to play it somewhere down the road. But yeah. Again, for me and Jen, hugely disappointing. Number 10 on the list, Merchant's Cove.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I sort of want to play this now.
Now I want to play it more. Now I want to play it more.
There's certain groups of friends of mine that gamers that we're okay stabbing each other in the back and trying to get stuff. So I know it doesn't work for Richard and Jen. It probably wouldn't work for me. Well, actually, Michelle and I might play it, but I know there's specific friends of mine, like, we would be all over this. We have not played it, but I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, I thought Merchant Cove looked good, and now I'm more interested in it because of that. Because, being, the nicest guy in board gaming, I love mean games.
That's right. There he is, folks. Speaking of the nicest guy, Chris, why don't we move on to our number 9 on the list?
Oh, yeah. This is not going to be me being nice at all, because this is the worst one. This is the worst one on the list. But it's number 3 because it's just like... It was pretty transparent what it was, and that's just a cash grab from an IP. And it's Orlog, the dice game from Assassin's Creed Valhalla, turned into a game. See, it was basically a mini game. I haven't played the physical version. I've played the video game, and it's better than this. It's a physical version of the video game version mini game. In video games where you get those when you want to stop hacking down people or doing quests, you gotta do something to break up the monotony, and you go into a tavern and you throw some dice or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's what this is. And in that aspect, it works very well. It works very well in terms of like, oh yeah, we're just gonna check some dice. You're gonna have either like arrows or axes, which do damage, and then you're going to have helms or shields, which protect against damage, and then you're going to have, if they're surrounded by gold rings or whatever, you get god power points, and you can use one of 3 god powers that you've picked at the beginning of the game out of 20. And all the god powers is they're like, hey, I deal more damage, or I defend against more damage. That's basically all they are. So you're rolling dice, you get to re-roll up to 3 times, very standard Yahtzee, whatever. The fact that this turned into a game makes me very disappointed. And it's because like the video game dealt with any of the little fiddly nature. So you don't have that. So you have a little bit fiddly bits of getting your god powers, whatever. And they just didn't do anything else with it. And for me, like, I think this is an awesome opportunity when you've got such like a great IP and you're turning something into a game. You have a chance here. You have a chance to like really get people hooked. But instead, what was produced was something that like I feel I would find, those sorts of trinkets that you can get, souvenirs. This is like a souvenir game. If you visited You visited Disney World and you're like, I'm bringing home this Mickey Mouse toy. Like you have it to remind yourself of the good times that you had. It's not going to like provide you with additional good times. I think that's exactly what this does. In addition, the price was so stupid. And this is what really, this is where I really get offended. Like, I'm fine with it existing as a dice game. Sure, it's a quick dice game. Who cares? There was this one dice game that came out. It's called Dice Fights. And all you do is you roll dice. They're attack dice, defense dice, money dice. Doesn't matter. You can use your money dice, get more dice. So eventually you're rolling a bunch of dice. Even the box of the dice. You buy that and you roll the box dice and it's worth 20. It's like stupid fun dice checking. Amazing. Love dice checking. But just the fact that like they were charging like $50 or something ridiculous plus shipping for this very basic like cheap plastic cup that you can get. And then you can go even further. You can get the wooden one, beautiful wooden with like a Viking horn for $200. They're really like, it felt like a cash grab capitalizing on the trend that everybody will just purchase anything on Kickstarter. And people did. It raised over $1 million Canadian. And then now there's reports as well. Because I was looking through and I was like, oh yeah, Orlog. I'm like, do we even put this on the list? It feels like I'm taking shots at like something that people aren't going to be interested in. But I wanted to like call it out, because now there's also a bunch of reports of people getting that like $200 thing and having the quality be worse than what the base game would have been. That's you look on BGG and that's what people are throwing ratings down. They're like, listen, like I finally got it, not the quality that I was promised. Like, so people who were investing in this potentially really cool collector's edition also just got screwed over because the production quality wasn't there, and it did not deliver on the promise that it made. So like mechanically fine, don't care, play what you want. It's better as a video game because it's quicker as a video game, and it's not something you're ever going to like pull out on a game night. You know what I mean? It's not even good enough to be a filler, I don't think, personally. But then you couple that with like preying upon people's excitement, and then just like making a product that doesn't deliver on that. It just felt like such a cash grab to me from the moment that it was created. And it's still, I'm disappointed that I was right in that the quality is not good at all. That these people who were excited and like, you spent your money on whatever, I don't care. Like, but if people were excited about this thing to have like this cool Viking horn to sit on the shelf, totally understand that feeling. But then also not delivering on that promise. And when you're like your cheap version that is also so expensive isn't good enough. It's only number three. It's only number three because like I didn't have expectations for it. You know, if I had any expectations for it, it like probably would be number one. But I knew it was going to be bad, and it was bad. But I'm still disappointed that it even existed, and that so many people bought into this like objectively bad thing that doesn't further the hobby and push it forward, you know?
Right. Yeah. Well, like, tell us how you really feel, Chris.
Turn people. Nicest guy in board gaming. You should hear what everybody else is saying.
Yeah. I mean, that's, it's certainly something that's happened before, and I'm sure it'll happen again, cash grabs and, just taking advantage of people. It's sad to say it's going to happen again. Yeah. So, thanks for looking out for us, Chris, and, calling it out. Appreciate it. All right.
Yeah, you're welcome. Altruistic, that's me.
Yeah. Let's move on to our number 8. This one sort of ties back into what you're talking about, mind management, as far as, like, it had nothing but universal acclaim, and this is going to be the game I picked that disappointed me. This is our number 8. It's Golem. I mean, everyone loved this game.
I want to try it. I'm so excited to try it.
It was a good game. I'm not gonna say anything. It wasn't like a bad game, but ultimately it wasn't for me. Now, this is from the designers of Grand Austria Hotel, Lorenzo Il Magnifico. I love Lorenzo. I think it's a brilliant game.
Yeah.
You can see things here. It's got the worker placement thing going on. It's got a bunch of different tracks to get resources and knowledge. It's, based on, I think it's like 16th century lore or legends or whatever about, these statues that come alive and you have them go do your bidding or whatever. And ultimately, you're going up tracks and exchanging resources for other resources. But I maybe because I kept in my mind, I kept thinking it was going to be the next coming of Lorenzo, and it just wasn't. I didn't think like it flowed as well. And instead of dice, they do this interesting thing where they have almost like a potion explosion type thing where they have marbles coming out of this dispenser.
Marbles, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where you're going to grab your actions from. And I thought that's unique, but honestly, I'd rather just give me dice and let me manipulate them, and we'll go on the tracks and do the things. And I just remember, so I played this one the first time I played, again with the dice tower, and they had me out. I remember the setup for this game took forever. Like, I don't remember Lorenzo ever taking this long, and I was like, to me, that's a huge turnoff, honestly. Like, I understand heavier, more complex games, they can take a while to set up, but I mean, this was a complex game. It was probably on the heavy medium side, but it just felt like it took forever. So that was like strike one. Then it just didn't flow as well to me. I mean, there was like, at least for me personally, there was some stumbling points as far as learning the game. But I know why. I mean, it's from those that design trio of Italian designers that do all the dice games. I know why it was a hit. People love those designers, but ultimately, Golem, folks, for me, just, again, fell flat. It didn't reach the expectations like I expected to be the number one game of the year, and it was a game. It was fine, but that's why it's on number 8 on most disappointing games. Chris, you wanted to play this, right?
I do. I still do. I feel like that's also an interesting trap, though, of designers that you like, right? Just because a designer that you like and you like their games, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to love every single one of their titles. And just going in blind, or not necessarily blind, even informed. This might happen for me later on the list for me. Is it's something where that's where the disappointment comes from, because you have those expectations. Like, I want to play it because of Lorenzo and because of Grand Austria Hotel. Yeah. Because I'm such a big fan of both of those games. That's why I'm like, yeah, I don't care what this is. It's the same design team. It looks like a crunchy Euro.
Yeah.
Num, 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 num. Like,
exactly.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So totally see where when it doesn't hit, that's where that disappointment factor comes in.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're like, oh shoot, I love everything else. I want to love this as much, right? Yeah, totally see where you're coming from.
And I was thinking too, as you're going through your thoughts there, and I started thinking about when the last time I played it after the Dice Tower run through, I played it and I started getting more of the engine building part of it, sort of figured that out. But it felt like I finally got my engine, and then just the game ended. I was like, oh, I want at least one more round. Engine builders, you get to that point, like, give me at least one round to get everything I want. But maybe it's on me. Maybe it could be me. Maybe I just didn't, suss it out right. And maybe it just, it might have been a failure on my part. But anyways.
You just got to get good, Ruel. That's what it is. That's
what it comes down to, Chris. I just suck at games. I need to do better. Nicest guy in board game, folks. There he is right there. Speaking of nice guys, let's see what Richard's got for us for our number 7 game.
Okay, everybody. Number 7 on my list of heartbreak and woe is Imperium. Either classics or legends. Take your pick. It's this game, in case you hadn't heard of it. This could have been in my top 25 games of all time, quite frankly. I am hard-pressed to think of a better design for a modern card game. I mean, this beats Race for the Galaxy. This beats Ray's Arcana. This beats, this beats Glory to Rome. The core gameplay of this civilization building game put into card format is so amazingly good. Just absolutely best of class. It's never going to get any better. Plus great art from the Miko. I always love that. But oh my gosh, it was so fantastic. And the thing is, depending on which version you get, the game comes with a bunch of different, classical or sometimes fantastical civilizations that we can lead to prosperity at the expense of each other. Because while it's hard, this is a deck building game. There are several, in fact, almost all of the different civilizations you can choose from range from slightly jerkish to absolute quite frankly, in just how much you can steal from each other and smash each other's stuff, and I so wish it wasn't there, because it didn't need to be. In fact, solo gameplay is fantastic. I love it. I love it so much, I almost kept this solely to play it as a solo game, which is not something I ever do. But at the end of the day, like the previous one I talked about back, what was it, number 13, right? Merchant's Cove. Brilliant gameplay with just overloaded, with completely needless player screwage. Absolutely ruined what could have, I think, easily made my top 25 games of all time, and could have been in the running for my game of the year in 2021. But considering that they just wanted us to stick a knife in, it becomes one of the ultimate disappointments for me. Number 7 on the list, Imperium. Classics or legends?
I know we were both laughing at that beep. I mean, just hearing the beep.
Hey, we're the nicest guys in board gaming. What can we say?
And because of that beep, I want to play this game. Like some of the other games on this list, I've heard nothing but universal acclaim for this one, and I think it looks cool, so I'm looking forward to trying it. Have you been able to play this one, Chris?
No, I haven't, but it's been on my radar because of the design team. David Turksey is half of the design team, and I love Anachrony. I think that also might be why the solo mode felt so good to Richard too, because he's kind of known for designing solo modes as well.
Yep.
And then Nigel Buckle is the other half of the team, who I don't know too much about, but I remember seeing on some like Facebook groups some like really interesting designer discussions about this game too, talking about how they were putting it together during when it was coming out. That it made it seem really interesting to me. So definitely on my radar, and it hasn't been deterred yet.
Yeah. And just knowing that Turchi is involved with the solo mode, I mean, you already got my interest peaked right there. It's like, I'm definitely going to try this. For sure. So, cool. All right. We were getting close to the very top of the list here. We're going on our number 6. And Chris, it's all up to you, my friend. Yes.
All right. I'm not going to talk too long about this one, but it's a result of loving the designer. Absolutely loving the designer. This comes from my favorite designer of all time. And this is one that I knew I would go all in for the moment it was announced that it was occurring. It was like, I never do this. I'm very frugal. I never back things all in. And this was one where I was like, yes, I'm getting everything because I'm guaranteed to love this game. I read through the rule book. I thought, yes, every part about this game feels cool and interesting. And I trust the designer. It's my favorite designer ever. This game is by Eric Lang. This is the third in the trilogy, and this is Ankh. And
what? Really? Oh, wow.
Did not hit with me.
I'm shocked.
Didn't hit with me.
I'm shocked because we just did a Hidden Gems or was it Hidden Gems where you talked about Rising Sun, right? Or was it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I love Rising Sun is my number 1 game of all time. Like it's my number 1 game of all time. Blood Rage is up there as well. Blood Rage made my top 20. So obviously the third in this trilogy series, I feel like it would be hard pressed to find somebody more excited than I was for this game. But that's the problem, right? My expectations were through the roof. And well, I think there's a few problems that didn't hit with me. Is that I feel like there's a bit of a runaway leader problem here. I feel like there's a huge skill gap. If somebody knows the game and somebody doesn't, that person's never winning. Like, just never. Not in a million years. There's no way to mitigate it. The person's going to go out from the gate, make a few moves, and if you don't do the right things to counter it, you're done. You're just done. And so it's a real race to the finish style game that it just I got rid of. I got rid of because I was like, I have everything. It's on my shelf. I played it like 8 or 9 times, desperately trying to find the joy in it. And that's the problem, is because the first game I played was amazing. It was so good. It was so fun. Me and my buddy Zach, we looked at each other. It was 2-player. We looked at each other and we were like, oh yeah, this is going to blow me out of the water. And then we played it a few more times. And then every time we kept playing it, I just saw more and more things where I was like, oh, that's how this is working. Oh, this is how this is working. What my main, I have a whole review about it, but like my main part that I dislike is that there's one god power you can get that feels like you need to get it. And then when somebody gets it, it basically acts as like a timer for the game. And I understand why it exists. I understand why it's in there. You're pushing the pace. It's a race game. But the fact that it like does exist as a timer and it just is so hard to claw back from there. The runaway leader problem just feels so significant. And I liked the prototype rule book better than what actually came out as well. I remember significant changes in the prototype on Kickstarter. Some of the actions were different, some of the powers were different, and the one thing that was really different is that they nerfed the merge god. They nerfed it in production because two gods, the two people who were last, they merged together. And so they need to be powerful in order to try to have a chance to come back. And I think that they were too powerful. Clearly, they were too powerful in testing. That's why they nerfed it. Yep. But it used to be each person got to take 2 actions on their turn. And so you basically get double the turns in order to try to come back. And like that to me feels exciting. It feels like, oh yeah, I kind of want to be merge god, or merge god isn't a detriment. And then they changed it so that the merge gods, you only get 1 action on your turn. And not only does it limit the merge god's power, it just doesn't feel good around the table to just have 1 action while everybody's playing 2. It really deflates the energy around the table, or it did with my games, any games that I played over 2. And so yeah, it just it was sad to leave. I made a whole insert for it. I never do that before playing a game. But I was like, you know what? I'm keeping this forever. I'm going to spend the 2-3 days designing and building this insert to get everything in one box, because I know I want to take it everywhere. I know I do, because it's amazing. It's Eric Lang. It's the third of the trilogy. It just didn't hit.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Could have been my number 1. Really could have been my number 1.
Yeah. So
maybe should have been my number 1 from like expectation to honestly, it probably should have been my number 1. Now I'm saying it out loud. Like biggest disappointment. I was the most disappointed.
There it is. So you would say this is like the Return of the Jedi, and Rising Sun would be your Empire Strikes Back. Blood Rage would be your Star Wars.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Right.
Except I love the Ewoks, so I love Return of the Jedi. I'm also odd in that way.
Yeah. I haven't gotten around to playing this, and I know it was a lot of people talked about it right off the bat. The whole merge thing, like when like that just seems so weird to me. But I want to try it just because it is Eric Lang. I'm a huge fan of his games, but I don't know. It just hearing you talk about your experience with it. I'd probably go in there too, because I love Eric Lang. Blood Rage, one of my all-time favorite games. Rising Sun, also excellent. It didn't surpass Blood Rage in my estimation, but again, I know how much you love it. But knowing that you're a huge fan, I'm sort of bummed out to hear that Ankh is up there on the list.
I can't. I would love to recommend it. I can't recommend it. I would love to. I would love nothing more than to, but I just can't. Yeah.
It happens, folks. That's what happens sometimes. All right. So there it is. Number 6. Now we're going to go on to the top 5. I've got number 5. And this is a game I was looking forward to because I've enjoyed the entire series. And I'm just going to say it right now. Number 5 is Seven Wonders Architects. I love Seven Wonders. I think Seven Wonders Duel is a masterpiece. But Seven Wonders Architects, I was fired up for it because I understood that, from what I understood, it was going to be a slimmed down, streamlined edition of the original game. So I figured, hey, this will be great for 2 players and new players. And I still think it holds water as far as like introducing Seven Wonders to a group of new gamers. But if you're going to play a 2-player, because I heard this played well at 2 players, in my experience, after a couple of games, I didn't think it did it at all. I much prefer Seven Wonders Duel. But what I think Seven Wonders Architects does really well is capture the feel of Seven Wonders without having to dive into all the different things that make, in my opinion, Seven Wonders great. The different types of items that you're going to score, You have your science, you have your military. That's all they have it here, but you're actually just trying to really build your wonder. And it is cool. Like, you're going to this is Kimberly's video, folks, Tabletop Tolson, also a member here of the channel. You can physically see the wonders being built. There's a pyramid and statue and so forth, which is really neat. And it still still keeps the drafting in it. You're drafting from your neighbors, or, you either take from this pile or this pile, left or right, and you can use those. And it's super streamlined. You get resources that's going to help you build the wonders. And then the game, it goes by really quickly, and I liked it, but it just having played all the other editions, the original game with all the different expansions, and then Seven Wonders Duel with the expansions. This one had just, for someone that's played it, all the other games a lot, it just didn't hit with me. I could see this a case being made for, hey, if you're gonna play one of these games with new players and bring this one out. Honestly, I would still stick with Seven Wonders, the original. Just, if you don't feel like explaining the science rules, then maybe go with Seven Wonders Architects. But as far as gameplay and everything's concerned, a fine game, but not the best. It's just wasn't for me. And my buddies that played it, I played it with. Again, we enjoyed it, but we quickly moved on. That's why it's our number 5 on the list. Seven Wonders Architects.
I haven't played this one because I heard it was an easier version of Seven Wonders, and I'm like, well, Seven Wonders is already fairly, like, it's kind of a gateway game. It was a bit tricky for me to pick up. When I first went into the hobby. It was like one of the first 3 or 4 games that I added to my collection, and I was like, what is the heck the deal with these science rules? I think it's actually like a really valuable point of you saying that, like, if you don't want to worry about science. I was like, back in the day, I really didn't want to worry about science, and science remains. It's just clunky to explain to like new players and like new to the hobby players, right?
It really is.
But Seven Wonders, just the regular one, is good. And you know what's actually great about the Seven Wonders? If you have, let me get this. I got rid of Seven Wonders, and I had to get it back because I got it back because I'm. It's part of the World Series of Board Gaming, and I was, running a tournament for them and doing some work with it. And they also are using the Leaders expansion, but I fit all of Seven Wonders and Leaders into the Leaders box.
No way, really?
This.
Oh, wow.
All 9 boards go in here, and this honestly makes me love Seven Wonders because this is the size of box that I want it to be.
That's perfect.
I have all 9 boards from the Leaders in here, and I have you know what I took out? I took out some of the tokens, but you don't need that much money anyway. So awesome. I've made a sacrifice, and if we run out of money tokens, I'm okay with that because and I need an elastic here because there is a bit of lid lift. But I'm very happy to have Seven Wonders on my shelf when it takes up this space on my shelf versus the actual big box size. Like, so thrilled to have it, and we'll probably get it to the table more because I can be like, I'll just slip it in the bag heading over, like it fills in that gap. So if you have the Leaders, or if you haven't gotten Leaders is also a good expansion for it. Very easy to implement.
Amazing, Chris. That is brilliant.
I wanted to show that off.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, now I want to do that to my game as well. I don't have the Leaders expansion. I think you just talked me into buying the Leaders expansion for the original.
Just get it.
Okay, let's move on to our number 4. We've got Richard on board. What do you got for us, Richard?
Okay, folks, let's talk about number 4, Sobek, 2 players. Oh my gosh, so heartbreaking. Now, I was not pulled in by designer Bruno Cathala. I've played enough of his games to know that his designs are always brilliant, but he almost always, for no good reason at all, throws in some kind of backstabbery. And I went in expecting I wasn't going to like that, although I was shocked, quite frankly, because the backstabbery is definitely there, but the design is smart enough to recognize that, if you're a player who does not want to stab each other in the back in what is a nice, bright, colorful set set collection game set in ancient Egypt, you can use the attack tokens to instead go into your set collection. So I thought that was actually really nice. And so I'm thinking, hey, this is going to work for me. And what I was really excited about with this game, folks, is his co-designer, Sebastian Ponchon, I think. Sorry, Sebastian, I do not know how to pronounce your name. Most folks might know Sebastian as the designer of Jaipur, one of the greatest two-player couples games of all time. One of Jen's absolute favorites, and I think it's amazing too. Whenever Sebastian does something, I want to be there. And if he's going to team up with Bruno Cathala, and so I went in thinking, all right, I appreciate that the cutthroatedness can be undercut because you can always just sell off the attack tiles rather than attacking each other. Nice. Variety. A good step for Mr. Bruno Cathala. Well done. Keep it up, sir. But what I was shocked by, and I didn't realize going in, is just how incredibly luck-swingy this game is. This game has an absolutely brilliant drafting method for how you're going to get more and more tiles for your set collection. Basically, whenever one player moves a token around to grab new tiles, that determines what tiles their opponent has access to. And it's sharp and fun and brilliant. Here's the deal, though. There's two types of tiles in the market. Face-up commodities that you're trying to do set collection, and then face-down special characters. And you won't know what those special characters are until you just go and just, take a stab at it and say, okay, I'll just grab that special character and let's see what I get. And here's the problem. Not all special characters are created equal. Some are significantly more powerful than others, but they are all laid out on the board face down. And that creates such an incredible luck swing in this game. If you find the queen, you're a step up above me. And I do not understand why one of two things could have happened. Hey, you know what? Make sure they're all equally powerful. So, and that they're all pretty much useful in any circumstance. You can get royally done over by bad luck in this game, or your opponent can just get crazy, get the perfect tile for them, and it's just luck of the draw because they're all face down. To be surprising, I suppose. Now, what should have happened is, hey, when the board is set up, put all those characters face up too, so it becomes part of the strategy. If you have some characters that are implicitly better than others, and I have to make a move that could give you access to these super powerful characters, if I know I'm doing it, that puts me in a really tough pickle, in a quandary over what kind of compromises I'm willing to make. And I think the game would suddenly become fantastic. But as it is, without that, with the in our experience, my wife's and my experience, and I also played it with some folks at the Dice Tower West convention too, which characters you get can really swing the game, and it's just pure luck of the draw, and it shouldn't be. And with a little tweak, I could see Sobek, 2 players, ranking very high for me. But as it was, I was disappointed. Not for the reasons I thought. I went in expecting to not like one thing, but was surprised there. But then, something that could have been easily fixed pretty much ruined the game for me and Jen, and we ended up getting rid of it, which is why Sobek, 2-player, comes in as the number 4 most disappointing game. Oh, it breaks my heart.
Wow. I thought Sobek was a good game. I enjoyed it, the 2-player game. I do like Bruno Cathala, and yeah, you have your copy there. I got
my copy right here.
Yeah, I will agree that just not having the player powers available, or like being able to see them, it does change things up a little bit. One thing I do like about it that I think was a really cool thing was just the way you refill everything. You're doing that little spiral pattern on the board. Cathala took that and put it into Splinter Duel, and Splinter Duel is one of my favorite games of last year, folks. He used the exact same mechanism in another game, and I thought it was great. So if I had to pick between Sobek and Splinter Duel, definitely Splinter Duel. But I didn't think this one was bad at all. So yeah, you have your copy still, Chris.
Yeah, interesting. I haven't played Splinter Duel yet, but I've heard it. I've heard it's really good. Yeah. I liked Sobek. I think Sobek is like solidly good. It did exactly what I wanted it to do in that King Domino style scoring. That's what I really like about it, is that sort of set collection that you're doing. I'm awful at this game. I'm really bad because I always think I'm setting up my opponent, and I'm like, haha, you can't, neither of these options work for you. Ha ha ha. And then they just there's this thing where you can take anything along the line that I consistently forget to like implement into my strategy, and they're just like, oh yeah, but you've actually just put me in the perfect position to take that one thing, and all I need to do is take one negative point to do it. I was like, oh no, my plans are foiled again.
Whoops.
So it's just like it's that sort of like large decision space that I find interesting and also frustrating and tricky. I don't find the character powers to be that unbalanced personally. I'm like, I feel like if you're prioritizing getting the character powers, you're not prioritizing getting the sets. And when you get a set and like actually play the set, you get those tokens on the side, which you get to look at all 5 of them and take whichever one you want. That feels more powerful than a character power to me.
Yeah,
but it's
cool.
it's kind of I think it's a good game. It's I don't know the longevity of it in my collection, but for now it's interesting. I like it as like a little bit more tactical King Domino. So
right.
That's where it's kind of sitting for me. You know what is disappointing? The title. Sobek 2 players. I hate saying it. Like I honestly I hate talking about it because I have to say Sobek. It's not even called Sobek for 2. It's Sobek 2 players. It's just like just the most disgusting title I've ever heard.
Right. Like you couldn't do Sobek Duel? Come on, folks. Come on.
Sobek Duel exists. So much better. Sobek 2 players? Like what are you doing? Who decided that? That's the biggest disappointment here. That's why it should be on the list. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of disappointments, we got 3 left. Chris, take it away with number 3, friend.
All right, number 3 is a game that I really, really did not end up liking. And a lot of people like it. This is one that it had to be my number 1 because of how much I dislike it and kind of actively dislike it. I really don't think there's a game here. I think there's a structure for people to make a game if they want to, light candles and dim the lights, and then look at spooky things that are outside of the game and not the actual game. This is the Night Cage. It just... There's no game here, or at least not one that's interesting to me personally. It's a cooperative tile laying game, but most of your tiles are going to just be roads. And so you're like, hey, what do I have this time? Oh, I got another road. Wow, I'm going to put it in front of me and step onto the tile and then have the roads behind me disappear so that next time I can turn around and walk backwards. And you know what I'm going to find? Another road. You're looking for like 4 keys, and then you're looking for 4 exits. Oh, there's 4 exit like tiles, I think, in the game. And when all players, you control 4 people every time. So when all players have their keys, you have to all make your way to the same exit, and that's how you get out. And there's monsters in there in which when you flip them over, they'll deal damage to you and they'll turn your light out. And if your light's out and they deal damage to you, then they take tiles off the top of the stack. And so guess what? You can take away the gates on the top of the stack, and that's what you better be aware of, because if you lose all your gates, then there's no way out, or you lose all your options to get keys, then the's no way out. But it just feels so random and pointless. It really does. And like I'd heard such great things about it, and people talk about this game so highly, and so I was like really expecting an actual game with actual interesting decisions in there. And for me, there really weren't any, and so I looked further, and a lot of people are like, oh, but if you light candles and then you blow out your own candle when you get hit, like it's really cool. I'm like, yeah, that is really cool. That's not part of the game. That's just like what you've done to make this game fun, and like great that you've been able to make it fun. I think that's awesome, and I think people should make their games fun, and that in that environment, you want to get deep into the theme. You want to create that environment. The art is really beautiful on it. Like the production quality is actually really beautiful on it too. Really solid tiles. I think it's a good price point for like the actual components that you get. But I just don't think it's interesting whatsoever as a cooperative experience or as a solo experience. This was one that I was like, I gotta play it more times, because to do my due diligence as a reviewer before I put a review out, I just didn't want to. I actively didn't want to, and I made myself do it. I was like, maybe I'm missing something. Could I be missing something with these modules? Could I be missing something with this? I wasn't missing anything. You know what I was missing? I was missing the time back that I took playing it again when I knew I didn't like it. it's just it was a real big disappointment for me because the theme is so cool, the artwork is so good,
Yeah.
like all the things around it were cool, but this is one where I didn't read the rule book before I got it. I got a review copy of Origins, and I was like, I've heard such great things, so excited to get it. It was probably number one that I was excited to play from like the Origins haul that I brought back.
Yeah.
And then it was just such a letdown, really.
Oh, what a bummer. Our number 3, the Night Cage, which is funny because I actually like this game. And for the reason, it's funny because it's like one of my Halloween go-tos now. And
I absolutely see that.
But what I think I agree with you, Chris, in the fact that the decisions that you make weren't as interesting to me on further plays. You know, the first time I was like, okay, this is really unique. We're actually taking tiles off in a tile laying game. I thought, okay, that's really different. But yeah, I mean, it's really straightforward, and it's more about theme than mechanisms in this game for sure. Now we don't go hardcore, we don't do the whole candle lighting thing or whatnot, but I think there is that sense of when you're playing the game, if you're into it, when you're in the moment, it does give you a little sense of, I don't know, like almost like claustrophobia, where you can't see anything ahead of you. You're trying to figure out things, but ultimately, in the end, they're not complicated decisions. You're okay. Which way are you going to do the road? How are we going to get this key back to the portal or whatever? Now there's a monster. What are we going to do about them? So I would agree. It's definitely on the lighter side of things, but I think the theme for me carries the game. I'm not going to try to pretend it's like the most complex game in the world, but it is what it is. Theme, yay. Mechanisms, meh. But that's our number 3, the Night Cage, folks. Let's move on to, is it my turn? Yeah, it is my turn. It's here's another disappointing game for you. Let's move on to number 2. So we have the Night Cage. This is a total opposite of the Night Cage. This is an abstract game, very colorful. It's based on a classic video game. It is Tetris, the board game. And I was super hyped about this because Michelle and I love Tetris. Michelle plays it all the time, and we love anything with polyominoes, and we love games by Phil Walker Harding, praise be, one of our favorite designers. And unfortunately, this one, I don't know what happened in this game, to tell you the truth. It has all the cool components. I mean, literally, you are dropping in the little pieces into the Tetris board here, but oh man, and you're just trying to do the little achievements on the cards. But here's the thing, Chris. Buffalo Games, they do wonderful games. In fact, I have another one by them called Planted, which I really enjoy, by Phil Walker Harding. But this one, every single time we play this game, I mean, I don't know who, I think it's Pro ZD, he did this video. Every time we play this game, we had problems with the components. We would drop one in, it would just stick in the middle of the board. And every single time we had to, hit the top of it. And, it was so frustrating. And it should have been a much better game than it was. And then on top of that, after you're done, it's like really hard to get the pieces out of the components. So the components really did this in. And I was so bummed about it because we really wanted Tetris. I mean, we love Tetris and we wanted the official board game to be what we expected it to be. But it wasn't nearly as good as it should have been. The components were terrible. And I don't know if I should say terrible. They are plastic. They were nice, but they just didn't work right at any point when we played it. We played it a grand total, I think, 3 times. We enjoyed the concept of it, but after 3 times, we just donated it to someone else. It was such a letdown. We've talked about on this channel before. Richard and I talk about Ahael or Arael, or however you want to pronounce it, from Panasaurus Games. That does a much better job of recreating Tetris than the actual Tetris game did. And it was such a bummer. And also, for those of you who are colorblind like me, the red green in this is brutal. I could never tell anything apart. You'll notice here on the board there are like little colors there. If you match up colors, you're going to get bonus points. I could never tell what was matched up, and neither could Michelle.
Right.
And such a letdown. It was my biggest disappointment of 2021. Tetris, the board game.
Didn't even hear about it. I like Tetris a lot. I don't think I would have liked that. That doesn't sound great. Yeah, it was such a letdown. It was like one of those things that showed up at Target for like a couple of weeks and was just gone, unfortunately. But anyways, let's go on to Richard. He's got our number 1 most disappointing game of 2021. Take it away, Richard.
Hey, everybody. Before we get to number 1, Ruel, I would just like to suggest you think nice, calming thoughts. Think of pug puppies or something like that. So hopefully that will help you get through the number one most disappointing game of 2021, which happens to be Mille Fiori from designer Reiner Knizia. Oh my gosh. First of all, let me just say shout out, thank you to the channel Cardboard Minute. They had a very, very nice playthrough video that goes really quick, does a very good job of showing off the game and how pretty it is. Oh, this game is so pretty. And I just watched a bit of their video to try and get a sense for, do I still feel the way I did all those years ago back in 2021? And the answer is yes, I do. Because I went in full of hope with this game because it's from Reiner Knizia. His designs are always worth checking out. And it's about glass artisans in the Renaissance era. So I knew my wife was going to love it. And it was so pretty with all the clear, they're not glass, they're plastic pieces that you use to mark progress on a board in a very Gone Shown Clever-esque way. This definitely feels like a game that, borrows inspiration from the way that you get really fun combo chains and all of that. But you're not doing a roll and write. Instead, you're marking your progress and you're playing a, a card drafting game. Everybody picks one card, plays it, hands the rest to their neighbor, all of that kind of stuff. And, the core gameplay is smooth, but here's my story of woe. I played this at Board Game Geek Convention with Jason Levine, the gaming machine of the Dice Tower. And after he and I were done playing a 2-player game of it, we both looked at each other and said, yeah, it's not very good, is it? Oh, yeah. And we were both really let down because zero work was done with this game to try to make it work well for two. No thought, it seems, at all. And this is a game so overflowing with situations where players create opportunities for each other, and inadvertently sometimes block each other and all of that. But the thing is, he and I both got together again the following day and played it as a 4-player game with Scott Alden, the head geek, board game geek, and a friend of Scott's. And we all agreed, wow, this game is amazing. And then that's when I got pissed off because I want to share this game with my wife. I want to enjoy it as a 2-player game, and there's no reason that this could not have been tweaked and adjusted to be every bit as interesting and compelling at 2 as it is at 4. Tighten up the board, do stuff like players control multiple, 2 colors and use their weaker score. There's lots of ways this could be done. Some of them inspired by Knizia himself, and yet nothing was done. And so when you play this as a 2-player game, it is an arid, boring wasteland of a board that will never fill up and players who will never interact other than in the draft. And it didn't have to be that way. I went to Board Game Geek's forums to see if maybe the developers had actually posted somewhere, hey, here's an official 2-player variant. And nope, they haven't, because it's a 4-player game as far as they're concerned, and they shouldn't have put 2 on the box. But I'll tell you, a lot of folks are coming up with all kinds of different ways. There's like a half a dozen different really good suggestions for how to make this game. Even Spielbox themselves, which is probably the most highly regarded board game magazine in the world, gave suggestions for how to turn it into a decent 2-player game because the developers themselves could not be bothered to do the work. And yeah, I mean, this goes beyond beyond disappointment into frustration, into anger, because it didn't have to be this way. And I expect better these days. The 2-player gaming experience should not be an afterthought. This game could have been great. I mean, one of the greatest card drafting games of all time is from Feld. Notre Dame is a great 2-player draft. This could have been. There's so many ways it could have gone. The Spielbox suggestions I thought sounded very good, but I want the publisher to do the work they should do, not have the audience do all the work to turn this into what it should have been if you go out and buy this game. I stay away from it as a 2-player game is all I'm saying. It should say 3-player minimum on the box. And as it is, I got to say, folks, I'm a little disappointed. It's certainly my number one biggest disappointment of 2021. Mille Fiori.
Oh, right here in my heart. I love Knizia games. I have not played Mille Fiori. It's actually here on my shelf, folks. You can see I've got it ready to play. I went through the rule book. I've watched a couple of videos. It looks like my jam, but at the same time, I've heard those same complaints about the 2-player variant or 2-player game. It's not supposed to be any good, and that's fair. That's totally fair. But again, Kinezius, he's got like 700,000 games. Like it's not gonna be a big hit every single one. There's a bunch of duds in his repertoire too, but I'm still gonna play it. Chris, have you played this one? I know we're both Knizia fans.
No, yeah, we are, but I haven't played this one either. No,
Yeah.
no, I mean, just play it at 4 then, Ruel. Don't play it at 2.
Exactly. That's what I'm going to do. All right. Folks, thanks again for hanging out with us today. This has been the top 15 most disappointing games of 2021. We want to know what you were disappointed by in 2021. Drop them in the comments below. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And be sure to check out Perk Coffee. Use that Rahdo code for 15% off your next order. And until next time, so long, see ya, and bye-bye. And hello, folks. We're running a little long. We're going to save Richard's, the other games he had for a disappointing list. We're going to save that for next time. But we are running a little late, and I need to jump in a car and drive an hour away because I'm going to be live again in a couple of hours with the Brothers Murph, folks. So if you want to, if you're not sick of me by now, go check out the Brothers Murph here on Twitch in a couple of hours, 6 p.m. Pacific, and we're going to play some games with Nick and Mike Murphy. Chris, before we get out of here, any final thoughts, my friend?
No, I think with these sorts of lists too, and you're in the extended edition. We can be friends here. I'm the nicest guy in board gaming. I think I don't know. I think that like I think it's really interesting that just because we talk negatively about them doesn't necessarily mean you can't have a great experience with them. I saw some comments like what sometimes breaks my heart about these sorts of lists is like people in the comments saying, "Hey, oh shoot, I have that game." Like I think you should still play it. You should still play it. You should decide for yourself. Like don't ever take a list like this where someone's like, what didn't hit with me. Like you can manage your expectations, but I think especially if you own it, play it. There was something about it that made you excited, and so that's what I want to leave off with is that this is not gospel for sure, just our opinions, and hopefully we were able to communicate the reasons behind those opinions effectively. But just I don't ever want to make people not excited with the thing that they used to be excited about. I think you should still be excited about that thing, and I hope you have a fantastic time. And really, I'm an idiot. So you'll probably like it. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, that's what I want to leave off on.
Well said, Chris. Folks, listen to Chris. He is a very smart human being, and again, that is so true, right? These are our opinions. That doesn't mean it's gospel. And we may have bad experience with certain games. You may have bad experience with certain games, and we did the pre-show earlier. We're talking about Chris and Linnaeus. They have totally different, tastes in games, but they both love cats, so they're good people, so remember that, folks. Some game that may not be for you may be for someone else, and that's what we want to leave you here with. We are going to raid someone. Let's continue the party, folks. Let's go raid. Let's see who are playing board games. It looks like the losers are playing board games. Stick around for the raid because you do get extra channel points, folks, and you can use those channel points for all kinds of great stuff here. And let me get the losers up on screen. We'll raid, and then we'll send Chris on his merry way, and me in a car to drive an hour, probably 2 hours, depending on traffic in LA. But I will be getting out there, and you'll see me at 6 p.m. Pacific live on the Brothers Murph channel. We're playing games, and we're going to have a good time. So the raid is starting in 3, 2, 1. Thank you, friends. Take care. Thank you, Chris. And so long, everybody. Bye, 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 bye. Raid, 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 raid. Let's see if it rated. I hope it did. And then we'll go off the air in just a second. And it has rated. I'm